Welcome everyone to the Turn Return Guide. Today we'll be covering settings and keybinds that can help every new player that's getting into Eternal Return. Without further ado, let's get into it. First of all, we're going to go to a setting that's very similar for people that play League. We're going to be talking about Quick Cast. So Quick Cast essentially makes your skills come out the moment you press your skill. For any of these skills available, it will be represented in the settings with lightning right below it, and it will glow yellow if you have it enabled or disabled. Additionally, you can also activate checkbox or Quick Cast indicator, which will instead make it so that when you hold the key down, it won't immediately get shot. The moment you release it, it will go ahead and shoot it. Now have in mind that if you do use Quick Cast indicator and you're using a skill that has a range to it, it will not allow you to cast it until you're within range, so have that in mind. Additionally, you're able to choose which characters have quick cast or not based on the characters that you want to use this for. So if you go into this tab right here, you can go pick which characters you want to go ahead and set a unique keybinds for them, and that way you don't have to change it for absolutely everyone. Following up on quick casts, we're going to be looking at another thing. For those that are looking to play ADC characters, we're going to go into the actions tab right here, still under input. We're going to be looking at attack, move, plus click user defined. This is for League players, or 8-click, which essentially, as you see here, moves you towards a targeted location and attacks the nearest enemy to your cursor. This is going to be really good for cutting out enemies for people that are heavy auto attack, such as marksman characters, as well as some melee characters that have a little bit of extra range. Now have in mind when you use this, you will attack the nearest enemy, which does include cameras. So if the enemy starts placing down cameras and you start auto-attacking because your cursor is closest to them, you might want to use this other keybind, which it looks like it by default will be F4. It might be slightly different for you, which makes it so that you can target only players when you have this enabled. Now have in mind, after a combat that you use this, you won't be able to target animals or anything like that, so make sure if you use this keybind, make sure to press it again so you can start targeting animals and other mobs outside of players. Alright, the next keybind we're going to be looking at will be your information overlay. This by default will be on F8. This might be slightly different since I have an older account, but you can see it right here. It's still under input on the interface tab, all the way down here, toggle information overlay lock. I believe everybody will have it on by default, but what a lot of people don't know is that you can actually go down here in game. You can actually customize what information it actually shows you. So for me, I have the boxes and collectible resources off because I believe that I have a pretty good memory of where boxes and collectible resources are at this point, so I think it's just more clutter to my screen, so I just decided to turn them off. I always recommend to have the wall animal timers and the combat info overlay on, showing their mastery above their head, and everything else it's a little bit more of your preference. So if you go down here in game, you can customize that. And then for the last few preferences that we're going to be looking at here, it's still in the other preference tabs in the game under settings. We're going to have the keybinds, the settings that I recommend for everybody to have on. Some of these you might already have on by default, but the ones that I would personally recommend will be to auto learn weapon skill. Then you have enable auto loot. Auto loot essentially makes it so that if you open a box and you wait a little bit, it will try to put everything that you need, only the items that you need, into your inventory for your save plan, which can be pretty useful. It is slower than manually clicking the items, but there's no reason not to have it on, so I would just have it on. Next we have auto equip. It is pretty much if you get a legendary item from looting a body or anything like that, or just crafting it, it will automatically equip it right away. And last but not least, you should have this enabled by default, but if you don't, show team colors is very useful. That way you can differentiate between different teams. That's going to be especially useful as a pro tip. If you see a camera placed down in a bush, the cameras also share the HP bar color with the respective team, so you can actually tell what team is the one that has vision from you based on the camera that you saw and you destroyed. So that's a tip for you if you do have show team colors enabled, which I would personally really recommend. And for my last tip, one of my most frequent questions, use shift plus right click in order to drop one item from a stack. It's gonna be very helpful when playing team modes and you want to drop a single piece of food for your allies. And that was everything. If you learned anything in this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.